Let's start a band podcast. Firstly, I want to say thank you on behalf of everyone that's listened to your music, connected, had this feeling come over their mind, body, and spirit. We have the amazing guest today, Lala Hayden, and I'm so excited because in the world where everything's designed to be numbed out of us, her music is special and it's an amazing message that I've never spoken to about any musician without this over 10 years. So I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for trusting us with your story, your energy, your music, your time. We appreciate you. Lola Hayden, if we were going to start a band together, what's the first thing that would shock me about the way you work when it comes to music?
That's a great question. Thank you so much for the intro. Okay, something that would shock you. I've got pretty severe ADHD, so I don't have like one linear way of working, and I can change my mind a lot in the process. And then it might look like it doesn't make any sense, but somehow eventually it all makes sense.
I love that. I want to take you back to the very start. What's your first ever memory of music?
My parents used to listen to music all the time, like especially at weekends. I have very vivid memories of me listening to music with my parents on weekends, and it would be such a fun time because my dad was really away quite a lot for work, but the weekends sort of like we all came together. And my dad just listened to this record by Petula Clark called Downtown, and I remember I became obsessed. It was the first song I became obsessed with, and I would just start like just singing Downtown at the top of my lungs to the point where it annoyed my parents so much they got me a set of headphones. I was just like singing into the, and I must have been like under 5. So yeah, really young.
Wow, that's incredible. Do you even remember under 5? I'm not sure, I'm not even sure I can remember that.
I just remember like that is the first time I like saw myself singing. I was singing at the machine, at the cassette machine. I just like just downtown. It was great. I miss those days.
So what were you like at school? Paint me a picture of young, Lala.
Ah,
Like, were you performing in every assembly? Were you quiet? Did you see
yes.
being a musician back then? What was it like?
Well, I was like the weird glee kid, I guess. That's what I do anything performative. I was in it. I was like singing, dancing. I remember I went to a Catholic school in Spain and in Barcelona. And it was funny because I wasn't Catholic at all, like nada, but I joined like the church group just so I could sing in the choir. So I was singing all of these religious songs, but I wasn't Catholic, which now in hindsight maybe I shouldn't have been doing. But it was the only place I guess I could sing at in that point in my life, so I just did it. But yeah, singing, performing, dancing, all of it. I loved it.
Now, I heard that the person you become is shaped by the people you had posters on the wall of, screensavers of. Who was on your wall? Who are some of your heroes you're obsessed with?
Okay, so I loved, I guess, like in the 90s, like definitely Spice Girls, 100%. I remember that was my first crush in terms of like pop acts. I remember I used to collect all of their pictures. I loved Posh Spice. She was my favorite. And just like, yeah, I remember wanting to be like the sixth Spice Girl. But then also Fleetwood Mac. My mum listened to a lot of great music. So she used to listen to a lot of Donna Summer. She used to listen to a lot of Kate Bush. She used to
Mm.
listen to Fleetwood Mac. And I'd say like it was Spice Girls, Britney Spears, and it was Donna Summer, or it would be like Whitney, or like I'd follow my mum wherever she would, go musically, I guess. Which was a nice to have like a lot of variation, but a lot of women actually.
A lot of female power there,
Which
absolutely, and that quite
yeah,
eclectic as well. Let's touch upon the Spice Girls. What was it about them? Was it the music, the image, the attitude? What made you think like, yes?
I think it was the message. Like looking back, I think it was the message, like girl power. I don't know, it just felt really strong. I felt like their world, like the Spice World, made like a lot of sense. I remember the video they shot in the desert. That was I don't know. I remember just going like, "That's I wish I could live in that world." I think they did a really good job of creating like a world for fans, I guess,
Absolutely.
which I don't think is something that I mean now it's very common, but I don't think really happened then. I love that they all had different personalities, but I what I feel like is that they all of those personalities speak to the woman in everyone. Like you can be all of those things. You didn't have to choose one thing. I think it spoke to all of my parts.
I absolutely agree, and it was never like pushy. They built a world that people wanted to step into, and was so much excitement about it. If you were to meet Posh Spice in an elevator, you have time for one question. What would you ask her?
Ah, I think I met her once before, but just said
Did you?
hello. I was just like, I don't know. I'd say. I mean, I don't know what question I'd have for her. I'd say like, what's maybe if you could relive one day in that life, what that would be? Because I
Mm.
feel like so much of music, I don't, at least in me thinking about when I started Antaros, like it, we lived so much for the next thing, and actually there was so much joy in the coming up. But I think when you're in the coming up, you don't realize it, so maybe you don't live it as much. So I'd just be curious to know what day that would be for her, whether it would be one of like the mega days, or whether it would be when they were all sharing a house.
What an incredible, incredible question that is. I think you should really like that. You know, I think you should really, really respond well to that. I want to come to you. I want to know. Tell me about the first song you ever wrote. What inspired it? How do you feel about it now? Is it locked away? Is it out there somewhere? Will it see the day of light?
It's locked away, and actually, I mean, I wrote songs when I was like younger, lyrics and poems and stuff, but I never recorded it. And then I remember the first session I ever did properly was with Josh, who then became my bandmate when I started Antaros. And I met him through a friend, and I was really nervous. And I basically told my friend to just say that I was Spanish. So basically, what happened was I was really nervous, and I showed up and I just spoke Spanish, like with in English with a Spanish accent, like this. Because I thought if like the only thing probably worse would be if he thinks that I can't actually speak the language. So I was like, anything after that's going to impress him, right? Anything after that. And I just remember like he just made a cup of coffee and he was just stood there at the door and I was like, "Hi, nice to meet you." And he was just like, "What have I done? Like, what am I about to write?" The song I haven't listened to it in a really long time. I think the vibe was kind of like Lily Allen, like but a bit more soulful. I don't think it will ever see the light of day because it's just not where I'm at now.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm pretty proud of it. I mean, at least I did not sound like this, you know?
Could have been very different.
Yes.
So I want you to be really honest with us now. Like, you've got some amazing fans all around. How do you feel about your music career so far? Like, if you're going to be brutally honest with me, like, are you where you thought you'd be? Are you ahead? Are you behind? There's a lot of musicians that listen to this podcast, and I really want to assess that journey with you. There's no judgment here. It's just understanding from an artist's mind where you're at.
I mean, I guess there's 2 parts, right? There's, like, accomplishments and there's, like, things that I wish had happened.
Hmm.
I'd say I'd say I waited too long to start, in the sense that I knew from a really young age, from the time I was singing Petula Clark, that I wanted to sing.
Hmm.
I would daydream on my way to school, and then I guess I sort of hit my teens, and I guess it wasn't really cool, and I wanted to fit in, and I sort of all of those things that made me me, I sort of left them, like, they sort of fell by the wayside. And it was only until I got a job for MTV in Spain and I was so close to music, I realized, like, I don't think I can live a life where I'm not on that side. I do feel like for me, it was interesting because I always felt like creativity was a switch I could flip on and off. And I actually realized I quit music after taking a break from Antaros for a couple of years. I thought I was never going to make music again. I think I was quite burnt out by the industry. I'd say it's interesting because I said I wish I'd started sooner, but I think one of the problems with starting quite soon is how maybe unsafe the industry can be for artists. I mean, I feel like so much about being an artist, especially nowadays, is about having an identity. And I feel like for me, at least as a woman in my early 20s, like I didn't really have one yet. Like
Hmm.
I was just figuring out who I was. And I don't think I figured it out until I was 30, 31. And I feel like for such a long time, I guess I was just listening to like the older men in the industry, just, they would say something. I'd just be like, oh, yeah, they have the experience. And I think time has actually taught me that there's not one way, there's not one linear path. And actually, how much of that is trusting the gut. I'd also think how much is like in self care. Like, I just feel like as an industry, I don't think it's a very healthy industry in the sense that, so much of the socializing is around alcohol. And now as well with social media, there's so much on like followers or like if I hang out with this person, will that get me? And that's kind of like the stuff that I really just didn't want to do. I just wanted to be like my weird preteen self, and go back to her. And I'd say, I don't know. I don't think I can give you an answer until I'm like on my deathbed or maybe even like gone, right? Because again, there's like so much time still. I'm really proud of everything that I achieved with Antaros, like with the band. I think like I look back on those days with so much fondness, but I know that I needed to take that break to sort of can again realize that creativity is not just something that I can turn off and on, and I need to have an outlet for that. Um, I
I think
kind of
this is
felt
I think this is so refreshing for artists to hear this and to relate, and I think it's beautiful the way you've put that in. There's old men in this industry who are bold, who think they know everything, and it changes rapidly, and I think the music industry is actually we're probably 30, 40 years behind. It's like there's a lot of companies don't even have a HR department, and it blows my mind that it's okay because it's the music industry. I don't think it is, and I like people questioning that. In terms of that whole journey you've just been there, what's been the biggest surprise? What's the thing that you didn't see coming out of all of that?
I do you know what? I feel like I did when I took this break, I sort of went down like a kind of like a spiritual path in terms of like just understanding like energy, like masculine energy, feminine energy, spirituality, and its connection with music. And I'd sort of forgotten that. I'd
Mm,
sort of forgotten that like creativity is one of the most spiritual things you can do. I'd sort of disconnected them. And I think for me, a moment that I sort of realized actually it is the most spiritual thing to do. And I became a mother recently, and my daughter, she's 6 months old, but singing and dance, like she loves it. Like her face lights up if ever like I do, or she hears music, and I kind of feel like we forget that this is innate in all of us, and I think to come back to that unfiltered and to actually be able to like show up and sing or write a song without that filter of, oh, what will people think? And like, actually, no, this is just in me and it just needs to come out. For me, that took a lot of pressure off. Because I think I remember I did a session with Jack Knife Lee. This was in 2020, just before the pandemic. And he said the difference between a true artist and someone with a hobby is that an artist knows when to finish a song and put it out into the world. And I think for so many people, there's almost that fear of never finishing the song or like just one more lyric or just one more change. And I think actually just realizing like to let go of that pressure and just say, no, let's just like let like if I trust my gut and if I just go with it, let me just put it out and then it and release it and move on to the next song or, instead of holding it tightly, like it's the absolute definition of who I am.
mm.
It's just a part of me, like the Spice Girls.
And it's got to come out. It's your
Yeah.
authenticity.
Yeah.
Let's jump into La La Land a little bit and PLM and where you are now. In 10 years of working with artists, doing content, doing interviews, I've not spoken to an artist, one, so honest and open, but two, in the same position you are. And I think there'll be women listening to this right now who are mothers or just about to be mothers. They might be very scared about the music industry in that process. I've definitely had those kind of conversations before. What do you want them to know after
Oh, it's so
experiencing it?
scary. It's so scary. And I remember, so I it was my daughter, who I love more than anything in this world. It was unplanned. And I remember I was always quite scared of becoming a mother. I realize now in this process, I'm 6 months postpartum. So I apologize if I'm not making any sense. It's definitely sleep deprivation. But I realize that a lot of it is because it's kind of been left out of pop culture. Like, I feel like women who are malleable, who are young, they can be turned into a product, but I feel like maybe there's not so much space. I think it is changing now for women who know who they are and who have something to say. And I do feel like there's definitely, at least I don't know, I can feel there's like a shift in this. I also feel, and it's interesting, right? Because women have been like the main music consumers. Like you look at any Beatles gig, it's all women at the front, One Direction, all women at the front. They sort of Women sort of define who is going to make it. And it's just interesting to me because I feel like if pregnancy were considered to be like a universal issue, not just a woman's issue, I feel like there would be so many albums about this.
Mm,
And I remember sitting down with my manager, like, and they were like, "Oh, I don't know, motherhood, is it?" And I'm just like, "But we are all born. This is an experience that is not just women, it's everybody is affected by this."
mm,
I feel like if it were a man giving birth, this is something that would have been, so much would have been done. And I feel like so much it's almost like women disappear, they have kids, and then sort of reappear a few years later. And for me, the importance of doing this is I want my daughter Nina to actually see what I was like in this process. I want to remember what I was like in this process and sort of
documenting the
like,
highs, the lows, the conversation.
yeah, that make the rawness of it. And I think also as well, like just, I guess I wish if I had seen something like this, maybe it would have made me less scared.
Yeah.
And
It's incredible how open and honest you've been online, and I think it's helped a lot of people, and you're talking about that it was a scary time for you, but you kinda did it anyway. I
mm,
think you've gotta be willing to do that a little bit, and I really hope that the POM and this new music that's gonna be coming up for you, people really understand that and the powerful storytelling behind it, 'cause you you you're talking about that, musicians are products and they're a brand, but they're humans first. And I
mm.
think I really agree with the point you made there of it is starting to change now. And that TikTok's been a major thing for me because I feel like I can just be my authentic self. On Instagram, I feel like, there's a version that I show and that's a CV, but on TikTok, and it often gets better traction and
Oh my
people,
God,
and the
I'm so
conversation
scared of
can feel
TikTok.
nicer.
I'm so scared of TikTok though. I'm like, it's weird. I'm starting to get into it now, but at the same time, it's really interesting. I had a conversation with I remember I think it was the Great Escape Festival a couple of years ago, but I was chatting to this band and there was a guy with them. I was like, "Oh, you're the manager?" He's like, "No, I'm the social media guy." He's like, "Are you on TikTok?" And I was like, "No, like I'm focusing on like creative like writing at the moment." He's like, "Oh, you're fucked if you're not on TikTok." And I asked the guys, I was like, "Do you spend more time making content or making music?" And they all said, "No, hands down making content." And I was thinking,
That's a
I've been
scary
thinking a lot
thing.
about what yeah, and I've also been thinking a lot about legacy at the moment, like what is left when I go, what we're leaving behind, and I think for me, my goal or wish, I guess, is to leave the planet a little bit better than it was, or just to, just leave a mark in, I guess, the way that I can. And um, yeah, I don't know. I think for me, I want to concentrate my efforts on that creative process. I don't know how many people will go back and say, "Oh, do you remember that TikTok that came out in 2009?" But you can remember some of the songs that came out in 2009. So I think that's where I want to focus my efforts.
I love talking about legacy and what we believe, what we leave behind, because we're not going to be here forever, and we might not get spoken about in generations to come. But actually, you've got a product that it really is quite revolutionary in what's happening, and really with that time right now. Who's your music for? Like, build me a persona of a fan of yours. Who are they? What are they going through? What do they need from your music? Because so many people do connect with La La Land and this world that you're building.
I think I think it's made do you know what? It's really interesting. I never really look at the stats on Spotify. I was surprising we get a lot of I get a lot of male listeners, which is great. You're welcome to the party. Considering so much of the music I write is about women, I'm like, hey, great. I don't know. I'd say like women in their mid 20s, I guess, like around mid 20s, late 20s. You sort of go through something called a Saturn return, which I guess is like I like to call it when you stop thinking, who do I want to be when I grow up, and actually start taking accountability on like who you are as a person when you walk in through the door. And for me, I remember I turned 30 and I put my record out with my band and and I was going through my Saturn return at that time and it just sort of made me just sort of shift, like everything sort of felt like it was coming apart,
Hmm.
but it was like kintsugi, right? Like it fell apart and then I was almost picking up the pieces of what I wanted and like bringing them back together with gold. I'd say it's for people who, yeah, who I don't know, want to dig deeper, but also want to dance. I do believe in like for me, music is definitely like therapy. It's so cathartic, and for me, there's nothing more exciting than getting on a stage, or like not exciting but healing than getting on a stage and maybe singing about something that caused me a lot of pain back in the day. It's like a different way of alchemizing the situation, I guess, and transforming it into a different experience.
Let me talk about your wellness routine as an artist. What do you do to take care of yourself? Because as we both noticed, this industry will chew you up and spit you out if you let it. So, do you have boundaries, things that you won't do, no matter how good the opportunity is? What advice would you give other artists in this area?
I would say, at least for me, I realize, you see an athlete before they're about to, play a game or run a race. They'll like wake up, they'll have breakfast, they'll visualize themselves scoring, like whatever, right? They have all these routines. And I think with music, it's almost considered like not cool to do those things. But actually for me, I remember I used to, when I was in the band, I would show up to the studio, like not having eaten, just had black coffee, which is like crashing, like my hormones all over the place, like blood sugar spiked. And I would have not worked out, not really like just been doom scrolling on my way to the session. And then I'd show up and expect like this inspiration to, suddenly just magically appear. And my confidence was shot. I was hungry, hangry, like all of those things. I was like, and now it's changed so much because now for me it's like, no, a breakfast, or like I'll do a workout or go for a walk or read a book or read poetry. Like I'll start to get, I'll get to like everything that happens before the studio or before a gig is all in prep for that moment.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
absolutely.
So
I
that's
think
definitely what's
it
changed for me.
I really like that. It's something that I've taken on recently is treating myself as if I was an athlete. You know, you're there to perform. Have I put myself in the best space? S- Your soul, mental, physical. Are you in the best place you can be for that situation? I think it's really
Mhm.
healthy for artists to hear that. What's one thing you believed about this industry that turned out to be completely wrong?
That the adults always know best. No, I think, yeah, I'd say that there's not one formula, and actually I've seen it a lot with people that I came up with, and or like band, like I feel like energy. I know it sounds woo woo, but like it's real, and I feel like if you come from an energy of like love and abundance, and again like. Not having breakfast before going to the studio, that's not like abundant, is it? That's just like starving you. Like, it's just bad ideas, one after the other. I feel like at least for me, a lot has changed when I changed my energy and when I changed how I was approaching things. Instead of thinking, oh, there can only be one person succeeding, actually, there can be lots of people succeeding. And I think that's one of the great things about having, platforms like TikTok or Instagram is that, like, you get people who maybe wouldn't have been signed, like actually now having a shot. So, I'd say like, yeah, the grown-ups don't always know best. Grown-ups don't always know best. And I think just like how important it is to trust my gut. And if
Gut
it's meant,
instinct is
yeah.
you know, people talk about woo land and like you're up here, you're crazy. Your gut instinct will never lie to you. Your
No.
head can say something, your heart can say something. Always listen to your gut. That's what I tell people.
100%. And I also, but again, I think again, women like we're so disconnected from our intuition, right? Because again, like it's been a very male-led industry, and I feel like, I mean, I think I was reading stats. It's like almost 90% of women are like either having body image issues or food issues, and that's that's the definition of being disconnected from your gut. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like we are disconnected. We just need to make our way back there.
I really like that, and it's such important topics that to talk about. When I started 10 years ago in this industry, I don't think they would be having these conversations at all, and
No, no space.
it's
There was
lovely to
no
be able to come
space.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's important, and I think it's really important people hear this and really take some comfort in that. On that note, I'm going to flip it here. What's the most uncomfortable conversation you've had with a manager, label, or team member where you really had to put your feet down? Because I think that uh, with these podcasts, and I've got there's some amazing podcasts out there. It's all about the wins, like social media is. I kind of like seeing the other side where you've not compromised in a place, and actually it's turned out really well.
Well, actually, I kind of did. I mean, I remember, so I worked with my managers for a really long time, my managers in my band. And I remember when we were talking about launching like a solo record, they were just like, well, we're going to have to start lying about your age because no one wants to hear like a new upcoming artist who's 30. And I remember like at that point, I was like, let me think about it. And I took a break from music after hearing that because I was just like, I don't know if I want to be part of an industry where I have to lie about I just don't, it didn't feel right to lie. Again,
Mm.
thinking about younger women, and now, Anastasia, for example, like that pop artist from the 2000s, she had to lie about her age for a really long time. I don't want to promote that. I don't want to promote that to girls coming up, to women. I feel like we're in a different point now. And actually, now being able to make new music and to be able to be an emerging artist in my 30s, I guess that break was necessary because it gave me the strength to come back on my terms.
What a fantastic way of putting it. Right, I'm going to move on to some fun questions, some quick fire. What's your guilty pleasure song that would surprise your fans?
Anything by Lenny Kravitz.
Ooh, do you have a party trick?
I'm good with accents.
There we go. Not just Spanish, some more as well. If every time you had a chart hit, you lose 1 inch of height, at what point would you stop? The smallest full stop. You'd have a lot of number one hits. Okay, if you were to form a supergroup, what musicians would you have in it?
Ooh, alive or dead?
Either.
God.
This is the first question all podcasts I've stumped you. You've been so quick with all my
I just
questions.
have no, because it's just how many. There's infinite possibilities, right? Maybe I just, you know what? Maybe I just start a band with like the Bee Gees or something.
Mm, just
I
go
think that could
straight
be
in.
quite cool. Yeah. Or just join Fleetwood Mac. I think that would also be great.
I did have
I
a
will,
sneaky
I will,
suspicion.
I won't replace Stevie. I'll have Stevie there as well. Like we'll
Yeah,
be like co-Stevies or something.
I love that. What a great band as well. Did you have a teacher or role model that really believed in you? What impact did it have?
I had so when I spent the first sort of 4 or 5 years of my life living in Cuba. My father was there for work, and we moved over there, and I had a music teacher there, and he would pull me out of class to go and like sing with other like years above. And I remember one year, I it was the sort of summer like end of year like party, and I said to my mum, you know, I'm singing at the party. I need a dress, and she was like, whatever. And I was making a big deal about this dress. She just couldn't understand why. Anyway, come to the end of year performance, and my class is singing and I'm not there. My mum was like, "Where's my daughter? Where's my daughter? Where's my daughter? Where's my daughter?" Anyway, suddenly like the big kids, like the 17-year-olds, are like singing "Somewhere Over the Rainbow," and like they all open up, and I come out in my little dress and sing like sort of the final chorus. And my mum like was crying. She was like, "You should have told me. I would have got you a better dress." But yeah, he was really supportive. And I think I was like 5 or 6 when that happened. So yeah, I don't think I would have maybe have pursued music so much had it not been for him believing in me.
I love that. What a great way of putting it. And lastly, what is one album you could claim for yourself? No one would ever know you've taken it. What would you claim?
Rumors.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unbelievable, isn't it, really? Okay, last question then. London or Barcelona? What's the better city?
Barcelona in the winter, London in the summer. Can I have that?
Both. That's the answer.
I like
I
to have my cake
absolutely
and eat it. What can I say?
I absolutely love that. Okay, obviously new single out this week. Absolutely incredible new EP coming. Am I allowed to say that? Is that under wraps? What
Yes.
can I talk about?
Yes. Okay, so Good Thing is coming out it's coming out tomorrow. Again, another surprise, but it's coming out tomorrow. I'm really excited about this song. It's almost like, well, it's not almost like, it's me writing about self-sabotage, quite a lot about self-sabotage. I think especially this whole EP is talking about sort of like, I'm calling it like postpartum, not the EP, but I'm calling the genre postpartum pop just because it's a bit all over the place, like my hormones. But yeah, I guess I was getting a lot of people saying, "Oh, you must feel so lucky. You must be so lucky." You must be, which yes, but I was also terrified. And I think Good Thing is almost about running away from the picket fence a little bit. Like I feel, and I don't know about you, but I feel like as an artist, I'm always like one bad decision away from like total self-destruction. So it's just like about walking that really, really fine line about just setting everything on fire. And then the EP is coming out in May, and it's called Queen of Midnight.
Incredible. Listen, if you've got this far through the podcast, go follow Lala Hayden. She is absolutely incredible. Join her group, La La Land for the Witches. It is hilarious and really, really cool to be a part of. Laura, thank you so much for coming on today. Your honesty, the stories behind the music, everything you've shared today has just been an absolute pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for coming on Let's Start a Band podcast.
Thank you so much.
Have an amazing rest of your evening, guys, and we'll see you next week.